I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know. And they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Welcome back to SledgeHammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Sparkles Soojian. Sparkles, how you doing today?
I am doing great. I'm so excited that you asked me to be on this, by the way. Let me just tell you, I'm very excited to be here.
No, it's an honor for me. Sparkles has been acting on and off for 20 years. She's been about 20 plus credits to her name, including the amazing horror short Day of the Pigs, something I was very honored to be able to check out. She's also a writer, has over 100 articles published under her name, and also hosts Comic-Cons and live comedy shows as well. So you are literally a jackass of all trades. So how did you get into all this? What got you started rolling in all of this?
Writing I've been doing since I could remember, since 9 I've been writing. And then acting was about 15, 16. My first job was in a Blink-182 music video for All the Small Things. That was my first.
Nice.
My first gig, yeah. And then how I became into horror, it was a combination of meeting the director Anthony Pisano and Michael S. Rodriguez.
Okay.
They just thought I was so scary looking that I should be in a horror movie.
No, that's awesome, and it's funny. Hold on just 1 second. I want to show you something. This shit.
I love that. The Enema of the State CD. Oh my god.
This record changed my fucking life. Like this record to me is I remember, it's funny because I remember when Damn It got big and everybody was loving Dude Ranch, and then this album came out and everybody was bashing it. And I was, I lived in I was in a little punk rock community, and I was like, fuck you guys. I remember being at parties drinking and being like, this album is so fucking good. Yeah, the singles aren't the strongest, but it's my favorite record ever. And it's still to this day has the softest spot in my heart. And to know you were in the All the Small Things video is so fucking dope. Like I did not, I'm going to be transparent here with everybody. I did not know that before we started this interview, but that is the coolest shit in the world. And like I said, this band completely changed my life. The Ken Sledge that is here right now would definitely not be the same guy had it not been for this record. So you and I are conjoined in some spiritual Blink-182 Say It Ain't So world. So it's so amazing to hear something like that.
Oh my gosh. And I was a fan of them before it happened to me. It was really an odd experience because my mom really hit it off with Travis Barker. They were talking every time the cameras were rolling. They hung out all day. I mean, like they were just like that was really funny. And then I'm from a small town, so they made a big deal about it, and they like got us a limo and put us on like all the radio stations. And we're just extras in a music video. We don't have any speaking parts, but they treat us like gold. So it was like such a great experience. I thought every experience was gonna be like that, but then years later, I find myself covered in blood in the middle of nowhere, running and, getting bitten by all kinds of insects. And that's my acting life today. So we went from there to
there. That gentle decline, incline to decline.
Yes, that's exactly.
So, cool. So let me ask you this. You do host Comic-Cons and live comedy shows and the such. How did you get into doing stuff like that?
Oh, by chance. I mean, I think because I moved back to that small town that treated me so awesome. And then it was just the thing that was happening, the thing to do. And then people were like, oh, you look like you'd be good at this, do this. I look in a Slave Leia outfit. So then they kept putting me a Slave Leia. And the funny thing, I've always been funny, but for some reason I never get put like in comedies. And so I just know, and then I started hosting. So it was kind of a natural progression to do the like hosting comedies. And then my last one, I just hosted a live comedy show 2 weeks ago. And they said, you're going to do 10 minutes in the beginning before the comedy. I said, 10 minutes? I'm not stand up. Like I just did the hosting. So I got the jokes flowing on improv and people were laughing. Either they thought I was genuinely funny or they felt bad for me. So they laughed.
Either way, they were laughing.
Either way, they were laughing. So,
and I just want to point this out. You step into a room and people say, wow, we want to see you as Slave Leia. I put a picture of me up as Slave Leia on my OnlyFans, and they pay me to stay off OnlyFans now. So it's funny how different the world can be.
Exactly. And I now I'm trying to figure out my next like outfits. I kind of feel like I've outdone the slave lady because I've done it so much. I'm trying to do like other things, you know. And I do Catwoman a lot, so I think I'm gonna get the Tomb Raider costume. Everyone said that, but do you have
the
any
Lord Croft.
suggestions? What do you think I should do?
Oh man, you can't put me on the spot like that. I'm a horror guy. So if you're asking me, I'm gonna go Texas Chainsaw. I want to see you in a white shirt with the blood, sitting at a dinner table screaming. That's where my mind goes because
I
that
love
to me
that
is
movie. Yeah.
that's one of the most iconic scenes to me in all of horror. I love that scene. But I got to be honest with you, as someone who probably masturbated for the first time to Slave Leia in my mind, you could never outdo Slave Leia. That to me is the epitome of sexy. That's my favorite. So to me, that can't be outdone.
I think the best compliment is when people say that I look hotter than Carrie Fisher. I'm like, well, thank you. I'm hotter than the original. Thank you.
Right. That's definitely a compliment. That's 100% a compliment. That was in between, like my first three crushes that I can remember were Slave Leia. That was one of them. And then you had Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street 4. She was my girl. And then, oh yeah. And then Tina from Friday the 13th, part 7. Like that, those were my like crushes as a little boy.
You know what I love about you is that you're like me. You're all about the classic horror. So like I mean, you like the old school stuff, and you know, a lot of people. I don't know if they've not seen it. They're all about the new, but I'm like, it's all about the old. You know, that's when I told you Psycho was my favorite like horror movie. I didn't know if you were gonna laugh at me and be like, that's not even like real horror.
Right. No, to me, actually, Psycho is. Well, let's get into it. Your first. We're here to talk about your first horror movie, and your first horror movie was.
With Psycho, that was, you know, super, you know, that shower scene. It's like, how do you ever, you know, get over that?
And it's funny because this movie to me started the slasher genre. Like to me, this is the first real slasher that was in the mainstream. And it also had that twist ending and Alfred Hitchcock's amazing writing. And to me, it's one of the most complete horror movies because you have the jump scares, you have the twist, you have the slasher. And on top of all that, you have one of the most infamous scores of all time. Everybody knows it's one of those things that it completely pulls everything together. And Psycho to me is just one of those movies that is so perfect. And as an example of how perfect Psycho is, they remade this movie with Vince Vaughn, obviously, and they pretty much kept it a line for line, scene for scene remake because they knew you can't up the ante on this film. You can't try to do better than what Hitchcock and they did back then. So when they did this remake, they did it line by line, scene by scene, and made it a little bit modernized. But when people are like, oh, I hate the remake, I'm like, how? Like I can say, yeah, sure, it's unnecessary. They shouldn't have done it because it's just line by line and in color.
Think people just went into it hating it because they don't like remakes. I think that's kind of probably what happened.
And that's why I tell them, I'm like, dude, it's the same fucking movie. Like you're watching the same movie. Like I get it. They didn't need to do it because you know Anthony Perkins. I'm sorry, he did an amazing job, and you don't need to try to redo what they did. And this is a perfect film. I love it. You know, this is one of those films that I don't own very many hard case Blu-rays, but this one I had to get because it's just so special to me, and I'm so glad that we get to talk about it. Do you remember how old you were the first time you watched it, Sparkles?
Probably like I want to say like 8 or 10. I was definitely not. I wasn't a teenager. I was younger. So yeah, that's definitely and that's what I watched. I think because I said I had a little bit of a religious upbringing. So I think anything that's old, anything before like the 70s was like considered okay to watch. That's like got away with watching. I watched all the classic horror movies.
And it's funny because a lot of those movies still hold up today. I'm a huge fan of Psycho, like I said, a huge fan of Birds, another Hitchcock film. I've always been a gigantic fan of the Universal monsters, whether it be the Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein. I've always been a huge fan of those. Swamp Thing's one of my favorites of all time. And I feel like these movies, you don't get the Boris Karloffs today like you had back then. And that's not a slam against anybody, but he was so believable. And for the longest time, that was Count Dracula to me. That's all that was. He was that. Right. It was a wrap. That's it. And we kind of already alluded to this, but I still got to ask you the question, Sparkles. Which scene was it from Psycho that affected you the most?
The shower scene. How I could ever take a shower again. But don't worry, I have.
Right. And it's funny because something that I don't think is talked about a lot, horror has always been a female driven genre. It was always ahead of its time when it comes to race and equality in LGBTQ with women. You got the final girl. Women are always kicking ass in horror films. But I don't know what it felt like to be a young lady watching Psycho or The Exorcist or anything like that for the first time. I'll never understand that, obviously. But as a young man, that scene affected me as, wow, that's him that's doing this. He killed that lady in the shower. And I think that sets off a primal fear for all of us, because when you're in the shower, you're naked, balls hanging, you're vulnerable, so you don't want nobody to see you naked. Well, I mean, I got dad bod now. I don't want nobody seeing me naked, so, and then you got somebody in there with a knife. That's got to be, a primal fear. And I think for a woman, it would be even more so of a primal fear. So do you think that scene still affects you to this day, like at all in a shower? Or
probably, yeah, like what you're saying, because it is a vulnerable situation. And I've, dabbled in boxing, so I'm trained to do a lot of things. But when you're in the shower and it's slippery, it doesn't get more vulnerable than that. No matter what your training is, I mean, you're gonna slip if you try to get all kung fu in a shower. So
right. I think you'd still kick me in the face and knock me out, though. I don't think I'd stand.
As I'm landing on my ass, I think I throw a punch in. So yes,
take us both out in one kick.
So do you like the Twilight Zone too, or is that considered not horror enough?
No, see, and I'm one of those people. I'm not a horror snob. And I think that horror is the most subjective genre that there is. For a comedy, I have to laugh. For a drama, I want to feel something. For it to be science fiction, it has to be some type of futuristic or outer space type thing for me. But with horror, you can't really pin that down. You can't. Death. King has death. The Land Before Time has death. You can't say it has to have jump scares. I've seen jump scares in plenty of movies that are not horror movies at all, that you can't even consider horror movies. So to me, I consider Jurassic Park a horror movie. I think that Jurassic Park is totally a horror movie. The Twilight Zone, totally horror. That fear of the unknown to me is more scary than having Freddy Krueger chase me in my dreams. And the Twilight Zone had a whole lot of that fear of the unknown. And so I absolutely.
And the stories are so amazing too. They really hold up, because a lot of it is plausible. Some of it. So yeah, it gets scary. I mean, they made that cornfield very scary.
Well, see, I'm a huge fan of anthology. The Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Hood, Creepshow. These things are something that I grew up with that I'm super, super affectionate about, because I feel like even if you have one bad segment, it can still carry a whole movie or a whole episode when you have a 3-episode run, or you have a movie that has 4 or 5 shorts in it. This whole thing can be made, even though you have one shitty short, the movie can still be absolutely phenomenal because you have more than one chance to make this right. So anthologies to me have always been super close to my heart. So you bring up the Twilight Zone, you're going to have me talking to you for hours.
I love that. So speaking of horror movies, I actually wrapped up a feature horror, a remake of The Bad Seed.
Nice.
I'm excited for that to come out. I think at the end of this year. I mean, I had filmed it on and off for about over a year, and so I play the teacher, Miss Fern, in this remake, and my mom even has a little cameo in it too. My actual mom, yeah.
That's so cool. If when the time comes, if you need any promotion, please let me know. I'll be happy to do everything I can to promote it. But you guys don't have to wait for me, because I should have said this at the beginning, but I have all Sparkle's social media links down here in the description. So you can get the word right from the proverbial horse's mouth, and you can go and follow her on social media right now at these links down here in the description. So that way you can follow her and get all the up-to-the-date updates from her. Don't have to wait on me to do that. So back to Psycho real quick, Sparkles. When you think of that film, what is the first thing that pops into your head?
Mental illness.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And that's something that
how scary that could be.
Yeah, it's something that horror has, like I was saying earlier, it's always had a way of tackling these things that are so, at that time period was so hush-hush and almost taboo, mental illness. And you bring that to the forefront like Hitchcock does, or George Romero bringing racism right to the forefront. And horror has a way of doing that and making it a horror film first, but having a message to go along with it. And, even the line that's so scary to me to this day, we all go a little mad sometimes, and it's so brilliant, and it's so soft and gentle, but so brilliant at the same time. So we know that the shower scene is one that affected you as a youngster, but now I want to know, what is your favorite scene from Psycho?
I think it was on her way when she was just going to this and her drive and just the beauty of it. I mean, that really set the stage too, because you're in this idyllic world. And I mean, it seems like nothing could go wrong. I mean, actually, it was kind of like looking almost like she was going to drive off the cliff. They kind of was like misleading. That was the only thing you thought could go wrong in that scenario. And I mean, you put yourself in there. We've all been there. We've all had a beautiful drive. And yeah.
It's so awesome. And this is one of those movies that doesn't bog itself down with extra filler stuff. This is mostly to the point type of movie. It's a little bit of a slow burn, but to me, it has one of the most effective endings of all time that you didn't see coming the first time you watched it, unless some asshole had spoiled it for you beforehand. So now, Sparkles, I want to go a little dark on you here. When we watch horror, obviously, we are all a fan of the kills. So I know that you have the shower kill, obviously. That's not really the only death in this movie. Which death would you say was it that affected you the most? Would it be the shower scene, or maybe turning around the mother?
I think it would still be the shower scene. But I mean, yeah, the mother is definitely a very...
And I love that scene. It's so how she turns her around and sees her, and then you see Norman in the doorway before that cop comes and takes him down. Like that, when you really have that reveal of Norman in the doorway, like it's such a amazing scene to me.
And then that goes to matricide too. They say that's all. So I mean, you have like all kinds of mental illness elements going on here.
So we talked about Psycho and how that was the first horror movie you watched. But now for a second, Sparkles, I want to go scream on you. What's your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Well, that was probably up there. And then I really like The Ring, which I know everybody thinks is lame. And there were so many scary elements. And The Ring one scary element. I mean, that girl, I mean, that woman brushing her hair, that scene. I don't know why that creeps me out so much. But it's really creepy. I mean, I really like all the elements of it. And people, I don't know why I get made fun of so much for saying that, but it's true. I love The Ring. That's like awesome to me. And everything about it's scary to me.
Well, something that goes really unmentioned when it comes to The Ring is a scary film. Like, hands down, point blank, that film is scary. And I remember people, like a guy in our town had a heart attack during The Ring at the movie theater. And another thing people don't remember this when it comes to The Ring. That movie is so effectively scary, and it's PG-13. That is not a rated R film.
I know that. That's why I almost felt silly saying that. It's not even rated R. And I think The Exorcist is rated R, and that's from like years ago. So,
well, I will always maintain that though it's not my favorite, The Exorcist is the scariest film ever made. There will never be another film to have the impact on society the way The Exorcist did, with men running out of theaters, puking and crying, women getting down on their knees and praying right on the spot. You know, I don't think there will ever be another film like The Exorcist out there. But with The Ring, you kind of had this, like I said, we had a guy in our town have a heart attack. So there were people that were like, fuck that. I am not going to see that. And the influence that The Ring had, how many times have we called somebody and just went, 7 days? We're just fucking around with them, you know? Or like, tell me that you've never watched a TV and someone's getting close and you're like, this motherfucker is going to come right out of the TV like that defective little girl coming out.
I think when we were kids, we all thought that was possible, that people could pop out of the TV. I definitely did. So,
yeah. And to me, and I did a top 10 favorite jump scares episode on the SledgeHammer Horror channel, and The Ring is on there. In the part where she's like, when she's talking to Naomi Watts, she's like, I saw her face, and it just cuts to that girl in the closet with her face all fucked up and she falls down like that. Nope, that was a wrap for me. I was in the theater and I was like, ah! Like I literally like jumped and screamed and I was like, this is stupid. I don't like this at all. So no, I can't imagine why anybody would pick on you for The Ring, because that movie is a great movie and it's PG-13 and it is just as scary, if not scarier, than many rated R films that I have seen. It's actually something we've talked about a lot on other podcasts is PG-13 horror, you know, effectively less scary because of the rating? And I don't think so. I don't think that you have to have blood, guts, and titties for it to be a scary movie. And that really is what pushes it into the rated R territory, not a feeling of fear. So to
well,
me,
there's
you can
good
have
shows that are scary. Like, did you ever see Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh yeah, what, Nickelodeon?
Yeah, and then even like R.L. Stein's. Well, I don't know if I've watched it, but I've read a lot of the R.L. Stein books. When you read them, they're pretty trippy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And look at like Tourist Trap, Poltergeist, these other movies that are not rated R but are effectively scary, because you could be an effectively scary film without a bunch of cursing, blood, guts, and nudity. It's very possible, and it's been proven many, many times. Now, Sparkles, before I let you go, we always end this podcast with the same question. We are going to go back to the amazing Psycho, and we are going to rank this on a skull count. 0 being the worst and 5 being the best. The catch: we are not being critics here. We are not judging this on acting ability, lighting, score, color coordination, nothing like that. We're judging this movie strictly on what it means to you and how much this movie affected you. So, Sparkles, 0 to 5 skulls, what would your ranking of Psycho be?
Oh, it affected me a 5 for sure. We're gonna go all the way on this one.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing I would like more, because this movie is fantastic, and it really, to me, started the twist ending that still is so prevalent in horror today. I mean, with the Saw and the Saw franchise and all these other movies, you still have twist endings all the time, and this to me is the first horror movie with a true twist ending. So, I want to thank you so much for joining me today, Sparkles. Don't go anywhere. I have a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as I said earlier, make sure you are checking down here in the description, checking out her social media links, giving her a follow, subscribing to her on YouTube, checking out everything she does. She's a wonderful person. I'm glad to call her a friend. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you are giving her a follow. As always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.